This is the fourth time in 3 years that I have been like that close
Near death.
to death. First bullet hit the front of my truck, but he didn't stop firing. He fired 14 bullets. He was shooting to kill.
There's purpose in everything if we're open to it.
When I moved to Nashville, I thought I was moving to Nashville solely to be a songwriter. I thought that it was all about me. You know, this was a theme in my life where it was, what do I get out of it? What do I get out of it? And for me, it was always, I'll move to Nashville, learn to write better songs, get a record deal, get rich and famous, and then whatever came because of that was my ultimate dream.
Right.
What I learned is that I was moving down to Nashville to have a couple very close encounters with death, really. And those close encounters with death pushed me toward God. And I know now that that was God moving me in a direction saying, you think you're moving to Nashville to be a songwriter, but you're moving to Nashville to encounter me and to meet me.
We read about some of this, Jesse, but for our audience, can you go into what happened here?
Yeah, so just about 2 years after moving to Nashville, I found out that it wasn't as easy as I thought it would be to move down there and become rich and famous and get a record deal.
Really?
So I was, shocker, right? So I found myself pretty much taking any gig that I could get, and most of those were college gigs, and they would require me to get into a minivan and drive 14, 15 hours, 16 hours, get to these colleges, play the shows, and then come back. So the first encounter happened, I was on the road to Pennsylvania to play the University of Pennsylvania, and I was driving to the Poconos. It was like a 14-hour drive, and I was about 5 minutes from the exit where my hotel was, and it started to snow. Now, I had been in the South for long enough to forget about black ice. Mm-hmm. And does it snow here? Where we
Yes.
are?
Occasionally.
Occasionally. So in Nashville, it snows for like a week, maybe. We get a light dusting, and I overlooked this whole history that I had of growing up in Canada, where I should know what to do in the snow. Anyhow, long and short, I stepped on the gas as soon as I noticed that the highway was looking slick. Sorry, I stepped on the brake when I noticed the highway was looking slick, and I lost complete control of this van. The van spun across 4 lanes of traffic. I had trucks whizzing toward me. I had lights coming toward me, and I fully thought in that moment that my life was over. And I saw the things that everybody says that they see. I saw the memories flashing before me. I saw my whole life in an instant, and I had a very strange peace. And that peace was that, well, if this is it, this is it. And I truly thought that my life was done. I thought if a truck doesn't hit me, the car will flip over. It'll go off the edge of a cliff. What happened seconds later is I crashed into a group of trees. And those group of trees were sitting on top of a cliff at the side of the highway, which on the other side of which there was like a 200-foot drop off into the Poconos. And I'm wedged between 2 trees. And I crashed. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm still alive. And then I tried to get out of the car, and I realized I was literally wedged in between 2 trees, like I could not get out. And that's when I saw smoke starting to come through the vents of the car. The hood started billowing out smoke. Almost instantly, it caught fire. And I thought, okay, now I'm for sure done. Like this is surely the end. And I closed my eyes, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I now know, looking back, that was actually prayer. And I asked, can I get out of this car? And I tried to wedge the door through one of the trees, and miraculously, I was able to open it. And I was able to get out and run from that car. All the way to the side of the road, I looked back at it, and it was engulfed in flames. Like we're talking about a literal fireball. And I had a thought that crossed my mind. I thought, oh my God, my guitar is in the car. And I ran back to the car to open the door to get my guitar out. Now, only a musician would ever do this.
Like buy another
seriously,
guitar.
right? I always tell people, I'm like, if you find yourself in a burning car crash, maybe don't run back toward the car.
No.
Unless there's a loved one in there and you get them out. But I got the guitar, and I ran back to the side of the road. Still, I was untouched. I had like a little red mark on my nose from the airbag. That was it. And I got back to Nashville, and when I got back there, everyone kept saying the same thing to me. They all said, praise God, you're alive. And I was like, excuse me? What? What is that? What does that mean? Praise God. They're like, you got to be thanking your angels. Praise Jesus. Like, thank you. You have someone in heaven to be thanking for. And I said, no, I'm Jewish. We don't talk to Jesus. It's not a thing, but thank you. And I went back to living my life the only way that I knew how, which is essentially seeking the love of people above the love of God. And I spent maybe 2 years after that just living in a spiral, really is what I call it. I was going out, I was playing music, I was drinking, I was excessively dating. I was just seeking something more through music, substances, people.
But was there ever like this unconscious thought ever about like, I'm still here and I wonder what my purpose is? Or
No,
you
not at that
didn't even
point.
have that thought?
Not yet. And
It's coming.
It is coming, yeah. So this was like 2018, and then 2020 happened, and we don't have to talk about 2020 because it's 2020 is what 2020 is.
Right.
Or it was what it was. But for me, COVID wasn't the first marker on my year. It wasn't the first pillar of what made 2020 that crazy year for me. In March, right before the pandemic hit, there was a really bad tornado that tore through Tennessee. 2 people lost their lives. A lot of people lost their homes. Sean, you know how crazy that was.
It was insane. And the fact that this part of the story is so intriguing and has so much to do with what we're talking about and the path that we're on right now.
Yeah, so that was, I think it was March 3rd, and there was this tornado that tore through Nashville. It tore through an area called Germantown on its way to East Nashville, and there were 2 buildings that were completely condemned, like wiped out. I was living in one of those buildings when that tornado hit. And I had neighbors quite literally that woke up without a roof. Like if you can imagine laying down and looking up at the sky and that's all that you're seeing. I slept through the tornado because tornadoes hit incredibly quick. They're like that and it's done. But the whole building shook and I woke up to sirens and I woke up to a lot of screaming and I walked to my window and I looked outside of my window and there was this hail coming down. But I saw that like cars had flipped on top of cars and there were trees like uprooted from the ground, some of them sticking through the actual building. And there was this pink insulation flying through the air because the roof had been ripped off of our building. But my unit that I was living in was completely untouched. And I remember thinking, am I dreaming? Like, is this the nightmare that I hope it actually is? And it wasn't. It turns out I was wide awake in the wake of one of the worst storms that Tennessee had ever seen, and I survived it. And that was the first time that I ever started to think, I'm here. Wait, like I'm alive again.
Is this a reoccurring theme?
Yeah, it became one. And that was the first time in my life. A lot happened that night and we were displaced and we had to leave the building and the cops were coming and I tried to get back into the building because my thought was, I want to go back to sleep. My unit's fine, guys. Like I know that anyone wants to use my couch, you can sleep on my couch. I was like, just my unit's okay. Let that be the shelter. They're like, no, you have to leave this building. It's going to fall. And I'm thinking, but my unit's fine. Like it's how can I get back in there and just go back to sleep and I'll wake up and it'll be all right. And it wasn't the case, but I was trying to process so much. And that was the first time in my life that I had an inkling of thought that maybe this talk about prayer, maybe this talk about God, maybe this talk about a higher power, angels, whatever you want to call it, maybe that is real. And I need to start looking at it because it's clearly been looking at me. And it keeps on delivering me from these circumstances. There's others before my move to Nashville that all of a sudden I look back on and I go, whoa, this has been happening for a lot longer than I think it has been. And that was essentially the first kind of key that sort of unlocked this door inside of my brain that said, maybe you need to think a little bit more seriously about what is happening around you, about the faith you've grown up with and what that means for where you are and how you move forward.
Mm-hmm. And they say right here, Bob, but wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more. So I went to church for the very first time, actually. Right around that time, I started seeking. I grew up in the Jewish faith, and I'd been to synagogue my whole childhood. I was bar mitzvahed in Israel. I read from the Torah. I'm very, very familiar with the stories of the Torah, but I'd never read the Bible. And I had a lot of people giving me books and devotionals, and there was a church right across the street from me, and I thought, you know what, I should go check it out. I know that if I went to synagogue, they'd be reading in Hebrew, and I don't speak Hebrew as well as I used to. So I thought I ought to research this in English in a way that I can really try to grasp it.
Relate it.
And I went to church, and the first church I ever set foot in was across the street from me. And I remember watching the service, and I thought, like, it's cool. There's a worship band, and I didn't even know there was such a thing as Christian music. But I really grew up in such a secular world that I thought that there was only pop, rock, rap, country music. Like that's it. I thought that Christian music would have had to have been hymns and Christmas songs. I didn't think there was radio for it. I didn't think there was people that toured this. I had no clue. So I went to church and I watched it. I'm like, yeah, the music's cool and the pastor's okay, but I'll probably never go back. This is like a bucket list thing, and now I can say that I've done it. And I tell you that because I now lead worship at that church, and that church has just become one of the most important pieces of my heart and my faith and my family and my life, my family away from my family. My family is all back up in Canada, but the church has become my chosen family. And then COVID happened, and the church closed down, and I wasn't able to really go there anymore. And that was like late 20 or mid 2020 through 2021. And it was in that season that I really started exploring what faith meant to me. And I really wanted to get it, because I looked back on my Judaism growing up, and I thought, this Christian faith makes so much sense when you relate it to the Torah. I mean, it literally is built upon the Torah. I believe it's a unified story.
Yeah.
The Torah, the prophets, and the Bible. The unified story just all leads back to Jesus.
Right.
And I kept reading it, and I kept looking into it, thinking, this is what, as a Jew, this is what I've been missing. Like, this is that key to my faith that makes me want to be, maybe proud to be Jewish, and made me proud to dive into that, was going into Christianity. And as I did that, I got really comfortable with calling myself a Jewish Christian. I was like, yeah, I'm a Messianic Jew. I love Jesus. I'm a believer. So I was calling myself this, but I wasn't totally acting like it. And I was kind of on this new path of life that I had, but I was continually putting one foot back into the old path that I had. And I actually, at that point in my life, I truly believed that I was kind of invincible.
When you say old path, excuse me, Jesse,
Yeah.
the old path, are you referring to the lifestyle?
The lifestyle, yeah. And a life in music, no matter what anyone says, it does lead you to some dark places. There's a lot of temptation in the music world. One of the reasons I actually left Canada in the very first place was I had a great deal of success there, and that had led me to places that I didn't want to be personally. A lot of partying, a lot of substance abuse. I found myself, before I left to Nashville, I thought I have to leave Toronto, because if I don't, I think it's going to kill me. And I went to Nashville, and people say that if you move to Nashville if you move to Nashville thinking that you're not going to be tempted to drink a lot there, it's like you're going from the minor leagues to the major leagues. They're like, Nashville is literally like the easiest place to go and just get completely lost. And that happened to me there. And the way of life that I knew in Nashville was there was a lot of darkness in it. But I looked at that darkness as fun. Like I thought that was where I got my fulfillment from. And when I found a faith that I have found, I found it very hard to walk away from that lifestyle. So what I was doing, essentially, I was going to church every week, but from Monday through Saturday, I was slipping back into my old ways, and I was calling myself a Christian. And I was saying, I love Jesus, I believe in Jesus, but I can do what I want to do from Monday to Saturday, and then I'll go to church on Sunday and I'll pray it away. I'll repent. And he must love me so much because he took me through the car crash and the tornado. And I actually skipped a part of the story. So before all of this happened, right after COVID hit, in 2020, I had the darkest part of my entire year. I actually went in for just a routine doctor's visit during COVID, because I needed a checkup, and the doctor was willing to see me. And he told me there was something in my body that looked like it shouldn't have been there. And it turns out I had to go to a specialist. The next morning, I was actually diagnosed with cancer that year. And this was in May of 2020. And I was told that I'd have to have surgery like immediately to treat this cancer. But that was the very first time in my life that I believed in speaking to God. I believed from what I'd been reading in the Bible and going to church, I believed I can ask God what's happening. And I asked him, I said, why is this happening? Why are all these things happening? And what are you going to do about it? And what do I do? And I literally heard the voice of God. I heard these very audible words. It was, you are going to be okay. That's the only way that I can describe it. And I felt the same way that I said I felt a peace in the car crash, thinking that my life was going to end. This time I felt a peace knowing that my life wasn't going to. I was 100% certain that I was not going to pass away, that this cancer was going to come straight out of me the same way that it come into me. And sure enough, I went for the surgery, and they took a very large tumor out of my body, and they told me that it had not spread and that I was cancer-free.
Wow.
So essentially, it was the first time in my life that I had leaned on prayer and trusted God, and he came through. Delivered on that promise.
There's so many pieces to your story, and I know we're not done, that you've been sharing, that I know that listeners can go, I can relate to that, of looking back and staying stuck instead of looking back to know this is serving me and it's necessary for where I'm going forward. Mm-hmm. And then the thought of, I'm going to go be the Christian on Sunday, but then I'm going to go step back into that old way. I love that you're talking about this, because I know you're not the only one that has practiced that or felt that. But I think I'm just moved by, you're just exploring your faith, and sometimes those things that happen in our life get our attention and they get us to start really thinking about it. But it takes great courage to ask God. Mm-hmm. And that you just said, I asked him. And I think people sometimes are afraid to ask.
I didn't know where else to go, and I didn't know who else I could possibly trust. Mm-hmm. I thought I can ask the doctors. My father's a doctor. I can ask my family. I can ask my friends, but they don't know. They don't know. They're not all knowing, right? We're all creatures. There's only one creator. So I had to ask the creator. I had to ask what's going to happen. And when I heard that, I was like, that's the only voice that I need to hear. And in knowing that voice was right, it set off a chain for me that still has not stopped. To this day, I know that there is only one voice that I can truly listen to. So there are so many voices in this world that people listen to and trust, and there's a lot of great ones. And then there are some that are a little less great.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the honest truth is, for me in my life, I was on this side of so close to death so many times, and I'm not done yet. Right? There is more.
Not.
I'm not done.
I want to hear. I think there's a kind of a crescendo coming here.
The voice that I was listening to was not lying to me.
Yeah.
And I had been lied to very, very many times in my life, and that's really why I went to God for that at that point in my life.
I think that you exhibit a high degree of awareness because you're listening to your intuition, and our intuition's always right. Mm-hmm. Intuition to me is God speaking to us.
Yes.
And versus going out and trying to find out what other people think. They're readily available, right? Their opinions, but I love that you kind of turned inward instead of outward.
Yeah, there's this incredible Bible study that I'm in right now. It focuses on the Torah in Genesis, where it talks about the Spirit of God over the water. Is in Hebrew, the word is ruach. And that word itself means a couple things. It means spirit, but it means breath. So the very breath that calms the waters is the same animate object that moves the trees, right? So when you look at that, it's the same animate object that is out there in the world, keeping the world moving, is what we take in, right? So we breathe that in, and that becomes our what animates us. And when you're talking about this intuition, we live because we breathe. So that breath that comes into us that we know, in our heart is something that's telling us something. It's always right. That's the voice of God.
Right.
You're absolutely right. That is completely, it comes from heaven, comes to earth, comes into us, and then it changes something inside of us. And it's very easy to not listen to. And I spent so much of my life not listening to that intuition, not asking for anything, just thinking, the way of the world has got to be right. Whatever other people say is probably the path that I should take.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesse, the show is called Time for Forgiveness.
Yeah.
And we have a workbook on our website at timeforforgiveness.org, because sometimes a lot of people don't understand the path to forgiveness is also the path to freedom, and they just don't know how to get started. The good news for you is you went through all these transitions. I get paid to talk for a living. Transitions, and you forgave yourself. You had to forgive yourself to get yourself on the right path. But then, as Bob said, let's get to the crescendo.
Yeah. Well, the crescendo
story that just, as you hear it, you have to shake your head and say, okay, there is definitely a higher power here. He has his hand on your shoulder.
Yeah, quite literally. And I mean, the crescendo of this story, where we're all moving toward, is exactly what has to do with forgiveness. When I heard about the podcast, when you told me about this, I knew exactly what I was going to talk about. And it's everything that we've talked about previously and nothing that we've talked about previously, because all of it really is just, that's the past. That is that arrow pulling back toward this forward trajectory. And that was basically a year and a half after the cancer. This is when I was living in Nashville, and I was exploring who I was and where my life was taking me. And I had fallen into probably the darkest part of my life that I had been in. And when I say darkest, I mean, I was lying to myself, and I was lying to other people. I was calling myself a believer and a Christian and not acting like one at all. Long and short of it was, I wasn't happy with the life that I was living, but I was acting like I was. And this was November of 2021, and I was going to get coffee on a Thursday morning with my dog. Was in the back seat of my car. It was a peaceful morning. I had a band practice and a show that night, and I pulled my car out of the alleyway near my building to enter the road, and I'll never forget, I saw this car make a turn and come barreling toward me, like really, really, really fast. And then the guy leaned on the horn, and he flipped a sign at me with his hand, and he came toward my car and almost destroyed the front end of my truck, like as if he was trying to run me completely off the road. And he just zoomed by, kind of veered toward me and then kept on going. And I got so angry. I just remember thinking, how dare he do that? And I always ask people, like, what would you do if that happened to you? Would you call the police? Would you honk back? Would
smile.
Would you smile?
Yeah.
Would you just completely pass it off and go, you know what? I'm going to be a pacifist and forget about that. Or would you go after him? And I had so much anger in me at that point that I thought, I'm not going to let this guy just do that and get away. I'm going to follow him. I'm going to get his license plate. I'm going to call the cops. I'm going to honk back at him. I'm going to vengeful. So I pulled out, and there were some other cars that had gotten in between his car and mine, and followed him a couple blocks. And when I finally caught up to him, he shot a gun through the back of his car, and he fired around at my truck. And the first bullet hit the front of my truck. I was actually able somehow to pull my truck over at the side of the road, but he didn't stop firing. He fired 14 bullets through the back of his Jeep, and every single bullet that he fired hit the head, neck, and chest of my driver's seat. They all came directly through the driver's side window. Now, one of the bullets actually went into the back of my shoulder, and it went straight in and straight out. And that was just so much darkness in that moment. And I'll never forget getting out of that car and it resembling the same thing that happened in the tornado and in the car crash that happened before. I thought, there is a storm of darkness around me, and I'm standing here, and I just survived it again. I'm like,
Were you right behind him when or how
I was
far away were you? Proximity.
20 feet,
Wow.
10 feet, 15 feet.
And you're in the driver's seat. And
I'm in the
one
driver's seat.
Bullet out of 14.
One bullet out of 14.
So he's got a clear, he can see you.
Oh, he was shooting to kill. I
Yeah.
mean, he's a very good shot. I mean, every shot that he fired went right into the whole driver's seat was torn up
That's
with
insane
bullets.
that it just kind of, it sounded like it just outlined your body almost.
Yeah, but I was ducking, and one went into my shoulder, and I got out of that car, and really what happened, there's a lot of stuff that happened, but I was alive. He was caught. But what happened next in the days that followed was really where the transformation started to begin. I did not know what was going on in my life, but I knew that there was something wrong. I knew immediately. I'm like, this is the fourth time in 3 years that I have been like that close
Near death.
to death. And someone's got his hand on me. I think it's God, quite literally on my shoulder, because he directed the bullet. Like literally, what happened in the last couple of weeks with assassination attempts and whatnot. To see that happen to someone else, and to watch how close a bullet can get to you, but not enter your body in the place where it can take you out, it has to be divine intervention that causes that. I mean, literally all I was thinking when he was shooting me was not the head, not the heart, like hit my hand, hit my arm, hit anywhere that doesn't kill me. And it didn't. And in the following days, I had a lot of voices. There were a lot of people that were talking to me. There was family, there were police, there were friends, there was my manager, there was just all of these people that surrounded my life, my career, my home, that were all giving me these ideas. Like, what do you do when that happens to you? When you're alive and someone just tried to take your life and the police have them. The long and short of it is I had to shut those voices out, and I had to stop talking to people, because everyone had a different idea. And I had to listen to my heart. I had to listen to God speaking through me again. And I needed to know what it was that I wanted to do. And I'll never forget this. I woke up one morning, a couple of days after this happened. And for the first couple of days, all I wanted to do was get this guy back. I wanted to sue him. I'm not happy, I'm not proud to say this. I was calling people being like, should I send someone after him? Like, what,
you wanted revenge.
What do you do? I wanted revenge. And I woke up couple days after, and all I wanted to do was forgive him. It was
that
indescribable. All I wanted to do was move on. I wanted to say, I wanted to put that in the past, and I started to look for, where is that coming from? And I had a very big realization. I realized, I'm alive and he's alive, and this wasn't intended to take either of us out. It was intended to change us and teach us something.
Does this come to you in a dream or an awakening state, Jesse, or you just woke up and you had the awareness?
I literally woke up. I can visualize the bedroom that I was in, and I just felt like the whole atmosphere shifted.
You had
a
like knowing.
Everything that was heavy was now light.
Okay.
And there was just the colors were different.
But that also is within you.
Yeah.
It's not just...
Well, it starts
Yeah.
in there, and then it came outwards. And I just remember everything feeling lighter and thinking, I have to forgive him, because what am I going to do? I'm going to hold on to this for the rest of my life, and I'm going to have this same darkness that I chased, that chased me back, that put me in these near-death situations time after time. I'm going to keep chasing that? I can't, because if I keep chasing that, that's going to keep chasing me.
So this was just something that you acknowledged in your inside of you. You did you ever speak with this individual or come in contact with?
I actually haven't spoken with him yet, but it's a great desire of mine at some point, because I know where my life has gone, and I pray that his life has gone in a similar direction. I mean, had my life ended that day, in a way, his life would have ended too. His life would have become so difficult and complicated, and perhaps it was already, but there would have been so many judgments handed down upon him that he probably wouldn't have much of a life, if not one at all, either.
I would guess that even those close to you, I mean, that was shocking to say, I'm not going to get revenge, and I'm not going to do those things. I'm going to choose this other decision, and I'm going to let go and forgive. What did that look like in your community of family and friends around you?
I mean, at this point in time, I'll be honest, I didn't have a large community around me, based off of the way that I had been living my life in a very, very selfish way. I think there were only a couple people around me that really had much of a voice, and they were the people that did have a voice were very supportive of, if this is what you want to do, then do it. You might be walking away from a lot of money, or large amount of lawsuits and things that you can chase after to make yourself whole. But I felt that the only thing I needed to do, the only thing I needed to make myself whole, was to use that forgiveness for him, and turn it into forgiveness for myself. And when I did that, when I was able to process that and think this forgiveness for this person is not only it's not a one-way forgiveness. It's an all-encompassing forgiveness for everything in my whole life that I have done that I haven't been proud of. If I can forgive him for that, I can forgive myself for all of that. And that was just the start of the new life that I'm living in. I'm so young in this new life that I'm in.
Jesse, we talk a lot about on this show,
ahead.
and Sean and Kelly, you're probably going to say the same thing I was going to say, Sean, about forgiveness really being what we grant that to ourselves. It's freedom. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of in a way it's a selfish act, even though, yes, it is also simultaneously affecting the person or the thing we're forgiving. But go ahead, Sean, you wanted to caveat on that, I'm sure.
Well, I was one of those friends that got the call that Jesse had been shot, and his former manager, and I have been friends for over 30 years. And she's telling me the story, and then Jesse showed me the pictures. And when you see the pictures of everything that happened and going through this process with Jesse and everything that he did, during that dark time, and then afterwards to hear about the forgiveness part, I'll be honest with you. I was like, you shouldn't be here. You should not even be telling me the story. And for you to say you forgive this person and the freedom that he received, and then also the direction and the path, Jesse, that this put you on. I had so much love and respect and could feel that sense of freedom for you. And I have introduced him on stage so many times and been with him in testimony and heard his testimony at church. And it is so refreshing and so incredible to see, and not only that, to feel your sincerity now, because it is real. And you are on tour and you are out there telling your story of your testimony. And that cannot be easy after everything that you have painted the picture for with us here today, that you have gone through. I mean, we just circle back and go, this guy is a living legend of all the things that he shouldn't be here for. It's just unbelievable. And my favorite thing, Jesse, and Bob and Kelly, you'll love this. He's wrapping up his tour this year with a revival at one of the biggest churches in America, and a church that Jesse and I know the pastor at, and I just love that.
Yeah, so exciting. And we want to make sure, Jesse, that you share with our audience where they can find you on tour, where you're going to be.
Yes, so the tour is extensive. I haven't been able to announce the fall dates yet. We're like days away from it. But online, on all socials, they can find me. It's Jesse Labelle Music. There's no I in Jesse. I get my name spelled with an I very often. It's JESSE LABELLE Music. My website, the tour dates will all be updated there. I'm going to be all over the country from September through November. And we've been all over the country this summer. It's been amazing. I think over 40 days from April through just last week. I have about a month now where I get to just relax a little bit.
Right.
And then September, back on the road, I'm opening for a bunch of artists. And it's going to be an incredible, incredible tour. We wrap it up in, actually, there's going to be more after October. But we haven't announced them yet. But yeah, one of the most exciting dates is at Shepherd Church out in Porter Ranch, California.
Well, we'll have to make it a point to be there. But I wanted to ask a huge favor. Would you play something for us and everyone listening?
What are you going to play today, Jesse?
It's tough because I have so many songs that I'm playing out here on the road. Choosing one is very difficult. Very, very, very difficult. I have a new single that I'm promoting right now, but I've also never been in this stage in my life where we're putting out so much new music. Like, we're talking about a new song every 5 weeks. So in June, there was one song called God Steps In. Just last month, there was Point of View. August 23rd is a song called Living Proof, which I love because it's so aptly titled. After that, there's a song called Son of God. Then there's actually Crosspoint is also releasing a song. Sean, I can tell you this. I wrote a song with Pastor Kevin, and we're as a church, we're releasing a single called Where Kings Are Made. That's coming out in September.
Love that.
And then there's one called My Story, and then there's so much music, so it's really hard to choose. Then there's this one song that kind of never goes away and always stays there because it's just like it's the first song that I rewrote. I wrote it and then I rewrote it because I believe that God rewrote my heart and my soul. That's where the forgiveness came from. It was this like I have to live this forgiveness because that is life. It's the other side of that is holding on to things. That's death. That's chaos. So there's a song called "Hey Jesus," and would your listeners enjoy that?
No, I would enjoy it.
I would.
Okay, because like I should
good.
play "Point of View," but by the time this comes out, there's probably going to be another single that's already out there.
Yeah.
And this song, "Hey Jesus," is a really cool story behind it. It used to be much like me. It used to be something else. It was a song that I had written about a human relationship that I'd been in. And I fell so in love with this girl that I wrote a song about her and played it for her like immediately. I think I scared her off. The song. But
what was your name, Jesse?
her name was Rachel. And the song was
Rachel.
called Hey Rachel. And the song
Rachel.
did some really spectacular things. Like it helped me get on tour with Garth Brooks. It was streamed hundreds of thousands of times. But I did not like playing it because it was this song that just reminded me about heartbreak. Now, in the song, I exalted Rachel. I called her a savior and an angel and all these incredible things that I believed, like I truly believed when I wrote the song, that she was the one that was going to save my life with her love. And one of the first things that happened to me when I started to listen to what God was saying was, he said to me, I think you're writing about the wrong kind of love. Like, I think that this unconditional love you're searching for from people, you're never going to get it, because the only kind of unconditional love there truly is a heavenly love. And I go, oh my God, I've been writing songs my whole entire life and I never knew this. So I just had this thought. I thought I had to change the name Rachel to Jesus and write the song from a new perspective, that it's God's love that I'm searching for that's going to save me, and not the love of a human being. And that song became the first prayer that I ever had before I really knew how to pray. And it's still to this day, it's the first song that I ever play when I get out in front of a new audience, because it's the perfect introduction to why I'm making the kind of music that I'm making now. So I think I want to play that.
Yeah, I love it.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, with a Time for Forgiveness exclusive, please welcome our special guest with Hey Jesus. Here's Jesse Labelle.
Hey Jesus, I hope you don't mind me getting carried away. Lord, I need you more and more every day. I know we haven't talked in a while, but you've been listening the whole time to every word and every prayer I've been speaking. Hey Jesus, this is how our heart's supposed to feel. Every breath is a hallelujah. Every fear I have stands still. You brought this broken heart to life, gave me grace, showed me light when I couldn't see it. Hey Jesus, I've been lost so long in this neon town. I drank so much, I almost drowned, scared that I was too lost to be found. And I never thought that I would say I ever needed to be saved, but in your name I found the faith I needed. Hey Jesus, read it in the pages, the words teaching me to be a little more like you and a little less like me. I know you know all the plans, so in your hands I put my broken pieces. Hey Jesus, I've been neon town. I drank so much I almost drowned, scared that I was too lost to be found. And I never thought that I would say I ever needed to be saved, but in your name I found the faith I needed. Hey Jesus, for the first time in my life, I'm everything I want myself to be. I was blind, but now I see, full of fear, but now I'm free. 'Cause where you are is where I find my healing. Hey Jesus, I got lost so long in this neon town. I drank so much I almost drowned, scared that I was too lost to be found. And I never thought that I would say I ever needed to be saved, but in your name I found the faith I needed. Oh, in your name I found the faith I needed. Hey Jesus, hey Jesus, I hope you don't mind me getting carried away.
All right. That was awesome, Jesse. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
I love this guy so much, and I
Love you too,
Amazing,
Sean.
Amazing.
I am so glad that you are with us today and that you shared your testimony with us, Jesse. And listen, we would love to have you back, and we're going to definitely put all your information up on our website again, timeforforgiveness.org. Bob and Kelly, you want to take us out today?
I'm not ready to take us out. I've got so many things after that song.
Yeah.
I do want to say, I know that we've read that, we're God's masterpiece. It's a work of art. And that, like his work in you, what a beautiful masterpiece to hear where you started to where you are singing that incredible moving song. My question, I have a couple, but I'll make them quick.
Sure.
I feel like I wouldn't say when we look back at some of the trials, tribulations, tragedies, there's purpose in everything if we're open to it, and God will use them for good. And part of that is who you become because of it if you're open to it with his work in you.
Yes.
I would love to ask you, what are you most proud of who you're becoming since the work in you?
Wow. That's a big question. I think what I'm most proud of, there's so much. There's so much work that he's doing in me, and in the same way, I think that I'm just getting started.
Oh yeah,
I love
that. We use that term a lot.
Yeah, I'm just at the very beginning, and I have to remind myself of that, because when you ask me a question like that, I want to have this great answer for you. But I truly
That is a great answer.
I really feel like I'm just getting started, and I want to have this epiphany of saying it's this one thing, but it's the change in my heart and the change in my life. The change inside of me has changed the entire world around me. Everything from the people that I have close to me to the space that I'm living in. And not only the physical space that I'm living in, but the space inside of myself that I'm living in. There's a peaceful place that I've found on this earth that I did not have before. And you can't describe that feeling. And that's probably one of the things that I'm most proud of is feeling at peace where I am and where I go, and being able to share that peace, like being able to share this with you and with everyone that I get to play for on a nightly basis on this tour. People ask me what it's like on tour these days, and I say we open up to each other, and we share, and we heal together. And I never knew that there was the possibility of doing that with my life.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah.
And now you're doing it for other people.
Yes.
You're bringing this to other people. But I just wanted to say one thing. The word that came to me to describe you, Jesse, is courageous. Because you've been through all this, but yet you turned inward and you listened to a voice that was telling you there was a different path that you needed to go down, even though it was totally uncertain. You had no idea what was coming. But here you are today, and that's, you can only look back, right? So now you can see how the dots connected.
Yep.
But I'm just really excited for where you're going, as you said, because it's going to be much bigger than you probably can even imagine.
Yeah, thank you. I'm just excited. It's every day is so new, and there's something really amazing that's happened to me the last couple of years. Time itself has seemed to stretch itself out. People often say that as life goes on, there's less time, but which is the ultimate truth. There is less time, but for me, time has seemed to have gotten a lot bigger, a lot larger, a lot longer. Days to me now seem like months in a really good way, though. And I
really
don't,
cool.
I don't know how that's happened or why that's happened, but months seem like years. And the things that I'm able to accomplish in that time seem so much greater, and I can reflect on them. And there's just this stretching of time as I've moved on from the past. It just seems like there's an incredible wealth of time ahead of me. And that's something I'm incredibly excited for, what I can do with that.
I have to go back to your answer about, I'm just getting started, and the power in that answer, because we're all beginners. I think we need to remind ourselves, and when we understand that, we stay curious about our faith, about life. But what I love about what you said, just getting started, forgiveness also offers us a new beginning. And we get started in a new way. And so with that being said, I'm curious how forgiveness has allowed you to kind of start anew. What does that look like in your life?
Forgiveness has allowed me to live a lot more life, both forgiving, really in forgiving myself. That's where it all started. It was forgiving other people, but it was forgiving myself. And as I move forward, I'm really able to see where in the past I did not use forgiveness properly. And I'm able, by looking back, to know how to live the future that's ahead of me with more of that weaved into the person that I am, the way that I act out my daily mission. I think that having that in my tool belt is probably one of the most important pieces of what I have to offer the world through what it is that I offer myself.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, he is acting now. He's a very talented singer-songwriter. Most of all, he is allowing God to share his gifts of music all around the world. And you can stream Jesse Labelle, our special guest, at Jesse Labelle Music. And again, we'll have it all up on our website at timeforforgiveness.org. Jesse, it is 10 times better than I thought it was going to be. I don't know. I knew when you were going to be a guest, it was going to be powerful and incredible, but it exceeded 10 times what I thought. And I can't thank you enough.
Well, thank you for having me, Sean, and thank you both for having me here in your wonderful studio. This is great. I always thought, when I thought of a podcast, I always thought like that I'd be where Sean is. I couldn't have imagined in a million years that I'd hop on a plane and come out and sit down and actually get to do this face to face. And I'm so glad that we did.
Oh, yeah.
This is actually, believe it or not, this is like the first podcast that I've ever been
Really?
part of. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. This is the first. So
We feel
And I'm
privileged.
usually
I
standing
feel
where you are,
privileged.
Jesse.
yeah, honestly, I feel privileged. This is such a great experience. And I have a lot of gratitude for you, including me in this.
Well, we really appreciate you just sharing your heart and all of your wisdom and your inspiration. I know you've motivated myself and Sean and Kelly in a big way, and Ben and our audience. So, Jesse, good luck in going forward. And
you.
Kelly and I and Sean are just really enthused to follow your path. Jesse, what's the chance that we could have you play one more song?
Sure. We can do that. Yeah.
We're so blessed to welcome him back into the studio with another incredible song from his very impressive library. Here's our special guest. It's Jesse Labelle.
Zoom out, take a look. figure out. Same man, same life, but it's all different now. I was walking the wrong direction. All I needed was some perspective. Step back, take it in, and now I'm seeing it. All the days that I spent chasing something temporary, searching for ways to hold on to more than I could carry. You were there all my life, all the signs they point to you. I couldn't see it till I saw it from your point of view. Looking for strength, some kind of pick-me-up to numb the pain. Too much was never enough. Tried to find it in my reflection. All I found were my imperfections. Zoom in, it's a mess. Zoom out, it's obvious. All the days that I spent chasing something temporary, searching for ways to hold on to more than I could carry. You were there all my life, all the signs they point to you. I couldn't see it till I saw it from your point of view. Every high and every low, holding on and letting go. Everything out of my control, it points to you. Everything that I had to lose, dreams that didn't come true. All I know is I made it through, and it points to you. That's my point of view. Yeah, that's my point of view. All the days that I spent chasing something temporary, searching for ways to hold on to more than I could carry. You were there all my life, all the signs they point to you. I couldn't see it till I saw it from your point of view. 'Cause it all points to you. That's my point of view.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for listening and for watching Time for Forgiveness. Hey, listen, visit our website at timeforforgiveness.org. And here's the great news. You can now download our workbook. Just click on the QR code. It's that simple. You can also message us on our website because we read every single message, and we certainly love to help. You can also reach us on our socials on Instagram and Facebook, and you can email us, again, at info@timeforforgiveness.org. I'm Sean Parr for Bob and Kelly Pascuzzi. We'll see you next time on Time for Forgiveness.